All right. What's up, everybody? Steve Strelacci. This is our first ever Silent Stage podcast live with Scott Yule,
Hello, hello.
another YouTuber, big tech guy, all sorts of digital gear. Basically, anything that your band will need, he's got solutions for, knows how to do it, wire it, and all this crazy crap.
Thanks, man.
So, welcome. Thanks for being on. Bunch of Helix content also. So, for all you guitar nerds. So, how I always start the podcast is I go back to your rigs before digital.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what was your go-to gigging amp when you were younger?
When I was younger, I mean, I had the Line 6 Spider, like almost everyone did, and went to the insane setting, and had everything up,
As we all do.
as everyone does at some point. But before like switching over to like modeling stuff, I had a Mesa. It was a combo Mesa that was just great. Like my old roommate had it. And he like moved. He's like, I don't need this. I'll sell it to you for half price. He used it like once, and that was my rig for a long time. It's a great amp, but then when you get into digital modeling, it's like it's so much easier.
The world gets opened up and just like crazy.
Yep.
By the way, before that, I mean, we're also at NAMM.
Yeah.
We didn't. I skipped that. See, this is why you don't do intros live. So we're actually at NAMM 2025. This is the new creator lounge that they built here for us, which is awesome. It's like a little private area that people come here to film. There's all sorts of cool stuff behind us.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to the Amplify 11 team and for NAMM for hooking this up. So yeah, this has been a lot of fun at NAMM.
Yeah.
This creator lounge is awesome. A lot of cool stuff happening here. So also want to shout out while we're on that, I'll shout out Sweetwater for sponsoring this. They sponsor the podcast, and they also sponsor the Shure Move mic set that we have, which Scott also demoed on his channel.
Yep.
So we actually both did the launch for this, I think.
Did we really?
I think it was at the same time when they first came out. So shout out to Shure for the Move mics and Sweetwater. And now back to regularly scheduled program. So from that amp, where'd you wind up?
It's funny because like I remember getting the HD 500, and I donated plasma for like multiple weeks in order to save up for that. That was the goal.
Musicians.
Yep, exactly. And I love that because I didn't want to have different pedals. I wanted just in and then out to my amp. And that's what I used for a long time. That with the Mesa for the longest time. And then I played in like 4 different bands at the time, and I got tired of hauling it, from place to place. And I was like, well, there's like fake amps in here, right? That's what I called it, like fake amp. And I was like, well, I can just use that, right? And that's what started me into the world of digital stuff.
And have you always been a solution guy?
Yeah, that's most of my channel is not about like, here's boutique, this type of wood on this type of guitar. It's like
those don't get views anyway.
Yeah, I know, it's true. Yeah, but it's like, here's how to problem solve something and make your life easier for live shows, because that's mostly what I do is live shows.
And that's a great way to kind of summarize your channel. Like what you do is that you make gigging life easy.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah,
very cool. That's why we both like amp modeling so much, I think.
It's just like anyone that's actually like done both, I feel like it's really hard to go back. Yeah. Some people do it, but it depends how much you're willing to do. Like, how can you do your job best in the least amount of time with the least amount of work is how I feel about it.
Yep.
And end product, I feel like, is the end goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Quality end product versus, not that it's, I don't want to say self-serving or selfish to want an amp behind you.
Oh, yeah.
It kind of is. You're the only one that cares.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's very true. Or the other one guitar nerd who's in the crowd.
Yeah, the one guy that's staring at your pedal board. Yeah. I will say that kind of things, I'm curious what your solution for things like this would be. Yeah. PAs that don't have a front fill.
Uh-huh.
That is where I feel like silent stages in general need work. It's not the modelers, it's not anything, but the silent stage thing, even with singers, it always affects the front center.
Yep.
Is always the actual worst seat in the house.
Yep.
Because the arrays are going behind, they're on the side, the subs, you're not getting any low end and you're just hearing drums.
Yeah.
What do you suggest for that?
Center fills. Yeah. So for something like that, because we have, because I hate cables so much. Like, that's why I do so much wireless stuff. You have like little wireless adapters that go to the center fills. So if you need those, especially if it's like a longer type of stage, like you're talking about, that helps a lot for sure. So
which center fills do you use?
I really like the EV speakers. So Evers 8 or 12 are both battery powered. So Bose also makes a really good one, the S1 as well. a little bit smaller. So like the Everse 12 is probably the best one for that.
Do you ever front fill with a sub, or you just still keep 2 subs on the side?
It's subs on the side. So what one of my singers has figured out, I didn't know about this until recently, but you send one sub forward and then you flip the other one and flip the polarity of it, and it keeps it. So if you've ever played on that stage where it's just rumble on it, it cancels it out on the stage, so it focuses all of the bass energy up forward and keeps it from that horrible rumble where it's just noise and stuff like that.
Now, how is that for a pro tip? That's a cool one.
Go.
Yeah. So your first digital thing was HD 500, you said, and then where'd you go after that?
Right to Helix. Right to Helix. Yeah.
And you had stints with Variax.
Yep.
Rest in peace. A moment of silence for Variax.
Yes.
I
still have mine.
Me too.
Yeah.
And everybody that has Variax is like, why'd they stop? Why'd they stop?
Yeah.
Everybody at line 6 is like, why'd we stop? Why'd we stop? So everybody wants the Variax. Everybody loved it. So
yeah,
that's another crazy integration.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to do the Variax with the Helix. Well, did you Variax to HD 500 also?
I didn't. Nope. So because I switched over to Helix and then found the Variax. Nice. So I actually used the Variax for like acoustic gigs because I wanted to. I hate soloing on acoustic guitars. Mm. So I was doing a lot of acoustic gigs, and I was like, well, this thing has acoustic modeling that sounded good enough, and I could actually bend strings, type of thing. So
yeah. How did it sound bending the acoustic strings on electric?
It was good. Yeah, it felt right. So yeah.
And it probably sounds better than acoustic pickups anyway. Like
yeah.
I started working with LR Bags this year, and like I'm kind of on a new like acoustic venture on my channel where I'm like exploring a lot of acoustic options, pickups, and all that stuff. So nice. I feel like that's the hardest sound to get live because undersaddle, piezo, pickups, whatever it is.
You say it, yeah.
They sound so pingy.
Yep.
When you play single notes, especially, like they might all sound good, like strumming and stuff. And, some of them have like little built-in compression on them and cool things. But whenever you play single notes, it's that like pingy sitar. Oh, yeah. It's always terrible. But LR Bags has been doing cool stuff. I have my McPherson. I just played a couple of TV appearances with Jess in Nashville last week, and I have I think it's an Element VTC in that guitar, my McPherson carbon fiber, and I have to play like an actual guitar solo in it.
Yeah.
And I was like cringing having to listen back, but the bag stuff is really good.
Nice.
What do you do for acoustic pickups? Do you have acoustic pickups, or do you stick Variax?
No, now I mostly, if I have an acoustic set, I use my acoustic guitar. It's Babbitt's. Are you familiar with them?
BABICZ.
Yep. Yeah. With the strings that like come out over the body. I love that guitar. That's my main acoustic now. And I have a Taylor as well if like I travel, because I'm not traveling with my Babbitt's, as every musician knows how much the TSA is a pain in the ass. So
they're the worst.
Yeah. Yeah, you did it like a video blog, and you were having trouble. I was like, "You're at DIA." I was like, "I guarantee it." Yep. And I messaged you. I was like, "Are you at Denver International Airport?" You're like, "Yep, definitely was." So
honestly, Nashville is BNA is it's terrible.
Yeah. Yep.
You're like the guitar player airport.
Yep.
And we have TSA pre like any traveling musician has, like where you get the fast track security line.
Yep.
And me and Jess take our acoustic guitars to the TSA line, and they're like, how'd you get through with these? We're like, what do you mean? Like, so they tell us you have to take everything out of your gig bag.
Really?
Not the guitar, but everything had to come out. So we had like opened the straps and literally everything, like loose picks, extra strings, capos, batteries. And we're just like, what are we doing? She's like, you have to do this and then send the guitar through separate and then send the bin separate.
Oh my
We're
God.
like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh, well, if you had gone through the regular security line, you could do the whole guitar through the thing. We're like,
what? Yeah.
And this is Nashville Airport.
Yeah. Where there's musicians all the time. We had one in Dominican Republic. I went through just fine, but with my wife's guitar, it was like a bigger case, and they took her passport and someone just like left, and we're just like, well, we kind of need that. And then they took the case over to the spot, and they said you had to break apart the case. They wanted to literally break apart the case. That was what, and I don't even know how we got out of that, but they were like, yeah, you have to see underneath. Material? Yeah, I guess if like there were drugs or something under it, I don't know. But
I've never seen that movie.
Yeah, I know.
They smuggle in the guitar case.
Yeah, it's such a pain. So I was like, how are we going to travel with this if they literally break the case? So yeah, it's a pain.
Yeah, I'll transition that to a shout out to Reunion Blues gig bags.
Yeah.
I've been using them for. They were my first ever endorsements here at the NAMM show.
Oh, nice.
Michelle, sweet Michelle, if you're ever out there, hello. Was one of our first like supporters, and we've used them ever since. I only travel with the Reunion Blues gig bags.
Nice. I heard those are good.
They're awesome, and I'll occasionally now, if it's like a one-off fly date or somewhere that I know that we're renting a big enough car, I'll do the Gator 2 Vault.
Nice.
Which works really good. I did that twice this year to Cuba, to the Colorado trip.
Nice.
And that worked out really well, surprisingly well. That scared me checking guitars, but I checked my Nags and Jessica's Kiesel both in that, and they lived. It was perfect. Actually, I used it in Malaysia too.
Nice.
I flew my Heritage Custom Core H150 in that, and that was terrifying.
Yeah.
That was like a 30-hour travel day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We had to fly to South Korea first, direct, and then from South Korea to Malaysia. And it was like,
oh, wow.
It was the most ridiculous travel day ever.
Yeah.
I have a vlog about, but you'll see the cases in that. But
nice.
Flying with guitars, man. Gig bags are always number one if you want to keep the guitar on you. And then if you're going to check it, go with something like a Gator.
That's why I like, because I use mono cases is the one that I use, because it still protects it if I'm forced to check it. Mm-hmm. But if I have like the big cases, I got stopped more. That was like a trick that I figured out. Yeah.
They see it and they're like, oh, this is a soft bag, so that's okay. Mm-hmm. But if it's a hard shell case,
it's
they're
literally
like
the same size too.
Yeah. It's like hard shell case. That's something that we need to take care of.
Yeah.
But they'll consider a gig bag soft. But like the Reunion Blue stuff, their Continental series, like that's the one they throw off the roof.
Yeah.
So like it's just as durable as a hard case, even more so because I feel like it pads a fall better.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I saw Pete Thorne video where he talked about how his 335 headstock broke. And he said he was just like getting in his car. He put the case down like this and it just went.
Wow. Oh, man.
Headstock snapped because a hard shell case will fall really hard.
Yeah.
But
interesting.
The gig bags have fallen plenty of times and they just like they roll.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a design, but it just is how it happens.
Okay. Interesting. I'll have to look into those ones that you use too. Yeah.
Yeah, I love them.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah. So we were at Acoustic, right? That was your last gigging Variax, and now you're still on Helix with your crazy setup, but you're also now using the Moore.
The Moore is the main one that I use. So it depends on the band, but like most of the time, especially the Moore one, because I don't know if people are familiar with it, but instead of having like a Axe Effects or Helix or Kemper or anything like that, you program it in an app and it saves to the guitar. And then I have just like a little Bluetooth pedal board that's like this big. It's all battery powered, and you can push buttons on the guitar. And I'm just literally wireless out into a direct box or a mixer.
And you do 4 presets at a time. Can you change banks on the guitar?
Not on the guitar. So that's the trick. So I normally have like clean, slight overdrive, more overdrive, and lead is usually what I do on that. So, but then you have different banks that you can use on the pedal board.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's good. Like I'll say it like the Helix sounds better. My Helix sounds better, but if I lose
end product.
Yeah. If it's 10% less tone, but makes my life 20% easier, I'm in. So especially for fly dates, you can't beat that. Like it's literally just your guitar and something this big. One of the bands I play with, they call it my tic tac, pedal board tic tac.
It's a beautiful thing.
I know. It's great.
It's like that argument too, like people be like, oh no, I need 100% of my tone. I need 100% of my tone.
Yeah.
Like I get it, but I also don't care.
Yeah.
You know,
you're also going to have some guy who puts the mic in the wrong spot too,
with
like
amps.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gone through this so many times. Like if you've seen my channel, you know that I've done every modeler, and we multi-track all of our rehearsals, all of our practices, gigs, everything. We always multi-track, and I sound like me no matter what.
Yeah.
Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. But if you ever literally record yourself in your band context and listen back, you're not gonna listen to one and be like, wow, that's infinitely better than something else.
Yeah.
100%. At least I feel like that.
No, that's true.
It's also dependent on how good you can dial it in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's something people don't really understand too. It's like, it'll sound as good as you can make it sound.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great way to word it, actually. That's totally true.
Yeah.
They all sound great. That's always interesting, like with the modelers, because like there's the fighting with the amps and then the modelers, but then there's the fighting with the modelers of like, no, Fractal's the best, no, the Quad Cortex is the best. I'm like, they all sound good, man.
And to be honest, your sound is in your head, and you're trying to find the same sound in all of them.
Yeah, exactly.
So at the end of the day,
use what you like.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Workflow for me.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I like the Helix so much.
The Helix gig, I call it the gig experience. Gigging with the Helix, I just feel like is, I think it's far above everything else. Yeah, the other ones have good things. Fractal's got a performance page where they have like easy access knobs, but just the Helix is so well thought out. Eric and the team, they're just, I hate talking so well about them all the time, but they're just my favorite one to actually use.
Yeah, no, and I've said it before, as like my favorite plugin, my favorite amp modeling plugin is the Pliny plugin from Neural DSP, which is now available on the Quad Cortex.
Yep.
So like that's my favorite tone as well. But it's like I have a Helix, an HX Stomp, and HX Stomp XL. Do I really need another one?
Yeah.
You know, type of thing.
And I love gigging the Quad Cortex too. Like,
Oh, and trust me, I'm still, even saying all this stuff, I'm still like, but I want to check out the Quad Cortex still. Like even then, it just like never ends.
Yeah. One thing I tell them though, I put this in all my videos. I say it. I feel like I need a way to close the gig view to get to parameters. So right now, when you have your screen layout, you have the 8-foot switches on the screen.
Yeah.
You have to hit the check mark with your finger and then find the block, open the block, make your adjustments, hit check mark, and then swipe up back to gig view.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So
you can do all that with your feet with the Helix. With
yes.
Yeah.
Or with the Helix, I could touch capacitance something
That's
and
cool.
right to it. So if my compressor suddenly sounds like crap, or it's too noisy, I could just literally touch capacitance. And they always have the parameters on the bottom of the screen, which I think is genius. At least you have something. I think I would hope Quad Cortex eventually implements something like that, where they have an always visible set of parameters. Like it could be like reverb mix, like you set it up.
Yeah.
Pick your favorite 5 parameters and they're right there. I think that would be a game changer for the gig experience with Quad Cortex. Nice. If it's dialed in and perfect, which as much as we try,
it never is somehow.
I mean, I see that in my comments and in forums that they're like, oh, well, if this is such a problem, just make your presets better at home. I'm like, that shows me that you don't gig enough.
Yeah. Because you'll hear it sounds slightly different.
And sometimes stages sound weird and sometimes rooms sound weird. And you've got to be able to accommodate that. PAs, because if you're bringing your digital gear, maybe you're not playing for your PA.
Yeah, exactly. Each speaker is going to sound a little different.
And every sound man's going to gain structure you different.
Yep.
So some guys will be like, some guys will gain you up all the way and then, have more play with your fader. Other guys will gain you at like minus 24 and then ride your fader. So those are two different sounds. So you've got to be able to adjust. So with more gain, if they gain you up on the board, I feel like that's going to make your reverb mix go up. Whether you hear it or not, I don't know if it's saturation on the preamp, whatever it is, it makes your reverbs louder and your delays louder. So sometimes you're going to be in a room and be like, my reverb is suddenly crazy and you got to dial out your reverb. You ever experienced stuff like that?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. And especially because I'm assuming you guys are in ears as well. It's Silent Stage podcast. I would assume so. But
we're guess. We're guess and check later.
Yeah, exactly. But especially even with ears, I'm so wild because we save our exact same settings that we were at the last gig, but then you play in a room that just has a weird echo, and it's like, why does everything sound bizarre? Or I've had that with a singer. Like I'll bring like a my mixer. Sometimes he brings his. And I'll use the exact same preset, and he'll be like, my ear sounded so good. And then load the exact same one. He's like, my ears sound like crap.
And they always blame you. Like, Scott, what happened? No, dude, what's going on? Why does it sound bad? Why does it sound bad? Like, it's the same file.
It's the exact same thing. Yeah. It's just one of those weird things about sound stuff. I think that's why everyone always chases tone. I think I saw an interview with Tom Morello where he goes, I found my tone, I just left it. He's like the one guitar player who ever did that. So everyone else is always chasing tone, even myself. So
that's okay.
No, go. I was like, I even have a video like why I don't care that much about my tone, or like why I don't obsess about it. It's I care about it, and I mentioned that in the video. But even as someone who says like I'm not as obsessed about tone, I still like I mentioned with the Quad Cortex, I'm like, oh, that Pliny plugin, like type of thing. It kind of never ends.
And my response to like amp guys that are that complain that you have to tweak your preset at the gig. How often do you show up or you play your amp at home, even in a room like this, and you set it up a certain way, you get to a room and it sounds like crap. And you're like, oh, all I got to do is turn the knobs and, oh, this room, I have too much low end. I'm going to dial the bass out.
Yeah.
I don't understand why that becomes like a roadblock for new users.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked about this with Richie Castellano on here too, where it's like, it's almost, they're afraid to break it. It's like, oh, it doesn't sound good. I'm like, well, just turn the knobs.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Just do exactly what you would do with the amp.
Exactly. It's labeled low, mids, and highs, and gain, and all of that.
It's the same thing. I mean, as a basic 4 things, I mean, you know what at least the 4 things are if you've ever played a guitar amp. So, and people get afraid of that. And
with it being like a digital thing.
Yeah. They're like, oh, I took it to the gig and didn't sound good. What was wrong? Oh, it was so low end or it was too bright.
Did you turn that down or up? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's one thing again for Helix that I keep the amp parameters up.
Yeah.
On that low bar.
Yep.
And then right next to it, I have my cabinet always. So if it's like too bright in the room, I'll always just crank the high cut down.
Yeah. Nice.
High cut, low pass filter.
Yep.
How often did that get mixed up in your life?
Dude, still to this day, I still have to think about it.
We got to settle on one.
Dude, I know. Exactly.
Settle on one.
Yeah. Yep. Low pass.
Yeah.
I'm team low pass.
So I always have to say it in my head. Yeah. High cut is low pass.
So even talking about it now, I have to still think about it.
You're like, wait, what?
Low pass. Yeah.
I like high cut, low cut, just because it's dummy proof.
Yeah. Cutting the lows. I could see it. Yeah. I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
Low pass.
You've convinced me. I'm now team high cut.
If someone says low pass filter and you don't know what it is, you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
that sounds intense. But high cut. Oh, okay. I understand. That's a very easy term to swallow.
Exactly.
If you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. Touch your knobs, people.
Touch your knobs.
All right. So I want to keep these live ones pretty short. What are we at? 22 minutes?
Oh no, we're doing pretty good.
Yeah. Cool. Well, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for being on, dude. This was a lot of fun. It's nice to finally have met in person.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been to Colorado twice in his hometown, and he's been on gigs, and we haven't been able to actually meet up and hang out. So
out of town gigs, yeah. So it wasn't even like close to Denver. So,
but it happens.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, check out Scott's links. I'll put them below, and go subscribe to the channel. Subscribe here if you haven't. Thanks Sweetwater for sponsoring. Thanks NAMM, and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next episode. Scott Yule, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me, man.